IVM.
Now, I know the fan garage seems like a place which my mother fears I'll spend the rest of my adult life in, but fortunately for her, it's actually a great podcast on sports. Something else she wishes I chose instead of being a nerd. Get your daily news on all the action going on in Indian football on iTunes, Stitcher, or even the IVM Podcast app.
Hello and welcome to the Geek Food Podcast. My name is Dinkar and with me I have my best friend Jigsaw. What's up, Jigsaw?
Hello?
Hi. I've called you Jigsaw before and you were super into it. I don't know why you're not now.
No, I forgot.
Unless your question mark is to the best friend aspect.
Yeah, I forgot that I was your best friend.
How could you when I'm your best friend as well?
That's where
I see. We have things to discuss.
I don't want to call it a problem, but that's where the controversy?
A source of joy in our lives. Yes, our best friendship is well documented on the air. But I have called you here today because, little known fact, all of us, the members of the Geek Food family, myself, yourself, and Tejas, also happen to listen to, enjoy, and play a little bit of music ourselves. So we've kind of come up with a topic that I'm surprised we didn't ever arrive on earlier.
It's taken only 100 and something.
Yeah, just 180 episodes for us to talk about music and sci-fi together. I mean, we've brought up music a ton, and you and I have a well-known penchant for discussing U2 on podcasts that have nothing to do with U2.
Mm-hmm.
But today we're talking about science fiction in music, which is an interesting subject because
very exciting.
A lot of our favorite musicians are super into sci-fi and the likes.
Yeah, in various forms, yeah. So today I think we're going to try this we're looking at it with a couple of different lenses. To begin with, let's just look at a couple of songs by certain artists that straight up are talking sci-fi in their lyrics and in their... I think it translates also into the presentation of the song with regard to how the song is executed and the liberties that they take.
Mm-hmm.
So my first contestant in this arena, if we can call it that, is one Bernie Taupin and Elton John.
Oh, is it Rocket Man?
It is Rocket Man, right?
Yeah.
So if you've seen any Elton live performances from when he first really took off, he started with no holds barred.
Mm-hmm.
Just in absurdity to its max when it comes to his stage production, in terms of the way he dressed. He was basically, he was Lady Gaga before Lady Gaga.
Yeah, true.
Today he's doing his final, farewell tour, as are a bunch of veterans, which is very sad.
The farewell tour goes on for like a couple of years.
It's going on for it's going on for about 2 years.
Yeah, thank God for that.
Yes. He genuinely has a giant boob.
What?
On stage.
Doing what?
Floating above the stage is a giant tit.
Okay.
Just because it's Elton John.
What a cool dude.
So that's where he comes from. So the song in question, Rocket Man, if you haven't heard it from Honky Chateau, I have a fun little synopsis here which says, and this is not at all inaccurate, an unnamed astronaut with low self-esteem prepares for a trip to Mars where he'll have ample time to ponder the misconceptions other people have of him, along with his failings as a father. Right?
No one could ever accuse Elton of not being ambitious with his songs.
So if you look at the lyric, they include such words as, Mars ain't the kind of place to raise your kids. In fact, it's cold as hell. And there's no one there to raise them if you did. And all of the science I don't understand. It's just my job 5 days a week. I'm a rocket man.
These are actual lyrics.
That's literally what he's saying.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool that he's just explaining the existence of a dude living on Mars who drives rockets around, and it's kind of sad about it.
Yeah.
And he made a masterpiece of a song out of it.
Because he has to neglect his family. He's away from home so much because he's got his job driving rockets on Mars.
Yeah.
Piloting rockets? Do you pilot a rocket or drive a rocket?
Are there highways?
In space?
In space?
I don't know, but I do know that in space no one can hear you scream.
It depends on who you ask. So I would say pilot. Because you would drive on the space highway, cosmic highway.
Driving down the cosmic highway. Okay, let's move on to another. Would you consider Goodbye Yellow Brick Road connected? Because it's kind of about the Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
And well, that's more fantasy, I suppose.
Yeah,
though there's a walking Tin Man in it.
Yeah.
But again, a very similar idea where he took the concept of Wizard of Oz and Dorothy and then turned it into a whole thing about high society and low society, of all things. So, yeah, well done, Elton.
What a mighty good man.
What a mighty good man. And, of course, he dresses like a character from the future. So, even now, it's great. Best
he never
thing.
stopped.
There's my favorite joke about Elton John is when you remember when the Queen had her silver or golden jubilee, one of the two, and she held this like giant concert at the park, which had like everyone. It had like Paul, it had Elton, it had Eric Clapton, literally all of the greatest British musicians ever. And this one dude who was introducing Elton John, a comedian, I forget which one, but one of the comedians we know and love from the UK, comes on and is introducing Elton, and he says like, so Elton walked in and he looked at this whole setup and he looked at the palace and he went like, looks great, I'll take it.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
That sounds like Elton.
Yeah.
Alright, give us your next song, Jigs.
Okay. One man known as Starman.
Oh, the
David
Bowie.
It's kind of the biggest no-brainer. Space Oddity.
Space Oddity, it's one of the most heartbreaking concepts that I've ever heard. So basically, for those who don't know, Space Oddity is about a man who goes into space and then slowly loses connection with Earth.
Yep.
And that is terribly sad.
A synopsis I have here says, an astronaut is stranded floating outside a spaceship with Earth in the distance. 11 years later, in Ashes to Ashes, ground control gets another message from the Major. I'm happy. Hope you're happy too.
Oh.
So this is seeing it as sort of as like a redemption arc, I guess, of like, space is so lonely and I don't know what to do. Oh my god, I'm so scared. And then like fast forward 10 years later, he's still there. He's like, well, I'm still here.
It's like, things are fine. I've settled on Mars.
Yep.
I have a family, but I'm kind of neglecting them. I don't know if it's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, David Bowie also has a song called Life on Mars? ?
Which is, that is maybe not so much lyrically, but melodically, that's one of the most heartbreaking.
It is, yeah. Lyrically, I don't know what it means. Isn't it basically like just a bunch of non sequiturs and then he goes like, and is there life on Mars?
Yeah. That, between EJ and Bowie, I think EJ's got a stronger, well, not EJ, Bernie, I guess, has a stronger grip on
sci-fi
making
topics.
sense.
Well, Space Oddity clearly has a story. In fact, like it's really literal in a lot of ways, like check ignitions, engines.
Right. I mean, Space Oddity is far more theatrical.
True.
It's very theatrical in that it's like a dialogue between two sides. Because when the song ends, it's for here I am sitting in a tin can, far above the world. Planet Earth is blue, and there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
And it's just like...
Great line.
It sounds beautiful, it works perfectly, but like, what is it actually? Just like...
It's a statement of a science fact.
Yeah, just like, hey guys, I'm still around.
Yeah. Planet Earth is blue because of the way sunlight scatters in the atmosphere.
On 70% of the planet, yes. And there's nothing I can do about it, so enjoy.
And considering the story of the song, it's a very macabre choice for Chris Hadfield to have performed it on the space station.
Quite.
Yeah. Though he killed it, and he did a great job of it, but still really dark. And David Bowie, of course, he had all these elaborate narratives behind his, like a lot of his songs had narratives in them, but also concept albums in general, like Ziggy Stardust.
Totally.
And what is it
Spiders
called?
from Mars.
Ballad of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars?
Yeah.
Something like that, right?
Ballad of Ziggy? The life?
Something of the life of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars?
I really should get this right.
Well, either way.
Whatever it is.
But Ziggy was basically a character that he played on stage as well, and was the character who was singing the entirety of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars.
Yep.
And he's basically an alien who comes to Earth to warn Earth that they're going to get destroyed. It's kind of like a Jesus figure, but coming from outer space. But also, he is a rock star who lives in excess, and he ends up destroying himself and Earth together. Now this, I remember reading as a child, a young teen getting into David Bowie type music and going like, wow, that sounds insane, man, this must be like some dark stuff.
Yeah.
And I've always had this dichotomy with a lot of stuff like this, where then I'd go and listen to the song and I was like, oh, okay, this is not what I expected at all. Because I would come in with this like expectation of some like super spacey, like really tripped out music, and then David Bowie in that phase was pretty much just like a glam rocker with great melodies, great songs, but not like prog epics, which is what I thought sci-fi music would be. So you go like, wow, the story of an alien who came to Earth to save the planet from the brink of destruction but ended up destroying himself, and then you hit play on Ziggy Stardust and it goes like cha cha ta 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 dang da dang da dang, and I'm like,
it sounds a lot more badass than that.
It sounds a lot more badass than that. But it's a pop song.
It's a straight up song. Yes, it's not
which
adventurous.
I didn't expect.
Perfect segue. So I think the exact antithesis to that, which would have made you very happy. I don't know if you've heard the song. It's a bit of a deep cut in Queen's pantheon. Flash.
Oh no, I haven't.
The Flash Gordon song.
No.
Oh,
tell us about it.
So it's random AF. It's kind of it's a companion piece to Seven Seas of Rye. Have you heard Seven Seas of Rye?
Yeah.
So
It's about... wait, was it part of the TV show? No.
No, but it's literally based on the TV show, like genuinely.
Oh.
So you know how Star Wars is famously, it's loosely based off of a lot of themes and a lot
On
of the
Flash
way
Gordon,
the Flash
yes.
Gordon worked, right?
Yeah.
Like the opening scroll and everything about it. This is genuinely a reenactment of the Flash Gordon story in some
Nice.
in a loose form.
Right.
It's kind of hard to explain because it is literally that weird sci-fi thing you're thinking of, and that it's makes no sense. There are genuinely sounds of pew 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 or older sounding, pre pew pew. This is
Right.
before Star Wars, right? So before the pew pew, whatever they had, like pew,
Yeah.
pew, like sound effects are part of the song,
Nice.
and lyrics that are spoken genuinely. Like the song begins as every Queen song does with ah.
Of course.
So the lyrics go Flash, ah, savior of the universe, Flash, ah, he'll save every one of us. And then you have a beautiful Freddie Mercury like classical piano like thing doing his thing.
Yeah.
And then I'm just going to read out a verse. He's for every one of us. Stand for every one of us. He saves with a mighty hand. Every man, every woman, every child with a mighty flash.
What? This literally just sounds like the theme song for the show.
Yeah, and then there's a spoken word break between the two characters. So you hear the sound effects of Flash approaching. Pew, pew, pew. Explosion, explosion. And then one guy goes, General Kala, Flash Gordon approaching. And then
What?
and then somebody else goes, what do you mean Flash Gordon approaching? Open fire! Pew, 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 pew! All weapons! Louder! Pew, pew, pew! Dispatch War Rocket Ajax to bring back his body. And then drums. Flash! Ah! You have to hear the song.
Yeah.
I never thought I would talk my way through a song. But that is genuinely the song.
I think at this point you just covered the song.
Most of it.
And that was a live performance of Flash by Queen, performed by Short Round Music.
Yeah. It's a
Nicely
great song.
done.
It's a great song.
I had no idea Queen/Freddie was into sci-fi stuff.
Oh my god, yes.
But it shouldn't surprise me
Right,
because
look at that production. Look at what they do on stage. Their antics. Look at their set design. Look at the costumes. It's all over the top.
correct. Also, their guitarist is literally an astrophysicist.
Yes.
He's written textbooks, hasn't he? Brian May. He's a double PhD in astrophysics.
Some nonsense.
What a nut job! He's a great guitarist. He's a bit of a shredder, and he's also like a champ in astrophysics.
He's one of my heroes.
Yeah, he's done everything I want to in life, and better. Oh well. Give us your next song, Jigs.
All right. I don't have a particular song, but I have to mention the pantheon of the Electric Light Orchestra.
True. They've always been like a proggy kind of band, right?
Prog is, I think, an understatement.
Yeah.
With the nonsense that they pull off. So, for anybody that doesn't know of the Electric Light Orchestra, it's also known as Jeff Lynne's Electric Light Orchestra. And their credit to fame, to give you an idea of like the stamp of approval that they've been given, Jeff Lynne is the only other guy that ever got to produce the Beatles. So after Lennon passed away, they got back together sometime in, I want to say, the 90s. The three of them got back in a room together to put out a song, which was kind of actually not that great. But they wanted to make one new song, and they needed a producer to do it because they'd had George Martin their whole life, or most of at least. And he wasn't going to do it. So Jeff Lynne was the only guy that they could think of. And Jeff Lynne, if you know much about George Harrison, he was also in the Traveling Wilburys with him. He's produced George Harrison stuff as well. So that's kind of where that insert came in. But anyway, my point is, Electric Light Orchestra's work basically sounds like Sgt. Pepper, but on acid.
Yeah.
You thought Sgt. Pepper was acid, but this is arguably twice as outlandish and outrageous. And the thing about all of their songs is that, much like that Flash song that I talked you through a minute ago, they all have sound effects. They all just have sound effects, and it works. That's a hell of a feat. If you can just like put in sound effects of what you would imagine people in the 70s and 80s thought spaceship sounded like, all those retro, things like that. Basically Jetsons sound effects. He makes those work. And it doesn't, at least when I listen to ELO, I never, even on my first listen, surprised myself at not tapping out. Because on paper, if I tell you that these songs have these things in them, you're gonna think, as you should, like, oh, that's a bit much. And you're right. But it's so much that you can't ignore it. It's like, well, I guess I should see this through. And then, at least for me personally, I'm that much more grateful for it.
Which, actually, now that I think about it, maybe we should do this for everything. Well, with Queen, everyone knows Queen, and I suppose with Bowie, Ziggy Stardust is a good place to start. But I have never delved much into ELO at all.
Okay.
What's a good place to start if one must navigate these waters?
Okay, so you recently heard ELO. Actually, you've definitely heard ELO.
On the Guardian soundtrack?
Obviously in the Guardian soundtrack. You've heard it in the opening title for Volume 2, Mr. Blue Sky.
Which, listening to Mr. Blue Sky, you wouldn't think of them as like the most spacey band, except for the fact that it happens in space. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of their biggest hits. But you also heard Mr. Blue Sky again in a movie that I know you love. Friggin' Jim Carrey, Eternal Sunshine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
True.
So that is probably their biggest hit that's most accessible, but they have a bunch of others. Like, I would suggest the album with Evil Woman, Criminy. I am blanking on the album title. But either which way. ELO, just in general.
Just find ELO.
Find ELO, yeah.
This does, while we're on ELO, it reminds me of another EL band, ELP, which is Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Okay.
Are you familiar with them?
No.
So they're, again, like a super proggy super group from the 80s, I want to say, who have like, I mean, their songs would typically be in the 20-minute to half an hour range. They're that kind of band.
Geez. Okay.
So they have a great, like, they have a whole bunch of stuff, but probably like their most known work, and really their probably only known work to people outside the like super prog rock fandom is called Karn Evil 9. So Karn space evil space 9. But it's Carnival 9. Like, it basically begins with this circus cry sort of guy, like, the dude who does announcement at a circus in a post-apocalyptic world, going like, welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. We're so glad you could attend. Come inside, come inside. Well, I'm trying to quote from memory here. But basically, It's a post-apocalyptic world where robots and humans had a war. And depending on how you interpret the song, because apparently it's up for debate, either the humans won or the robots won. And you're being welcomed into a circus where they're displaying stuff like the last blade of grass on Earth and other such artifacts from before humanity existed. So it's like a proper science fiction story that is just written in song in 3 movements. So the circus part is the first part. So it's Carnival number 9, part 1. And then there's part 2, which is mostly instrumental, which is apparently crucial to sci-fi prog songs, where they have like 8-minute long organ solos. And then there's part 3, which is the flashback to the actual war happening.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's a weird one. That song itself is great. The rest of ELP's work is, unless you're super into like very hardcore musicianship, you shouldn't really bother getting into.
So they're not the most accessible.
They're not accessible, no. But I feel like their songs gain a lot by knowing the stories behind them. So if you paid attention to the lyrics, they're actually pretty great.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. My next entry is another oldie, even older so than ELO. We're talking like straight up early 70s, late 60s. The Carpenters, where you would least expect, right?
Yes.
Carpenters are genuinely music your grandparents listen to, which I coincidentally listen to all the time.
Well, you are a grandpa,
I am, so I embrace it. So, calling occupants of interplanetary craft. That is the name. The song begins with a radio presenter.
What is this?
It begins with a radio presenter. It's a genuine like scene setup. It's a sound of, hey, you're listening to blah, 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 video on KX, blah, blah, blah. And our first caller comes in, and he's like, hey, what do you want to hear? And he's like, we are observing your Earth. Literally like that.
This is a Carpenters song?
It's a Carpenters song. It begins with a 90-second long intro of just buck, just people talking.
Right.
So the radio is like, hey, buddy, what do you got there? Call into our show. And so he's like, we are observing your Earth. Like, what's that? We are observing your Earth. Sorry, buddy, we don't have that song, but your voice sounds great on the radio. Anybody ever told you that? We are observing your... Okay, listen, can you hang up now? We gotta give it to somebody else. We are observing... And he hangs up, and then the song finally begins.
What is going on?
The lyrics are hauntingly beautiful. It goes... In your mind, you have capacities, to telepath messages through the vast unknown. Please close your eyes and concentrate with every thought you think upon the recitation we're about to sing. And the chorus is, calling occupants of interplanetary craft.
I would never have imagined the Carpenters had a song like that.
And then, here's the plot twist. The bridge is the alien singing. So it goes...
In that voice?
Yes. So the alien sings, you've been observing our Earth. And we'd like to make a contact with you. Literally, that is the melody. That is genuinely the melody.
Oh my god.
They even have the word ultra emissaries thrown in there.
Did that word even exist in those times?
Apparently.
Does it even exist now? What is an ultra emissary? An alien that's an ultra messenger.
The most amazing emissary you've ever met.
This is surreal.
Yeah.
Where do you find these songs, Jigs?
It's a beautiful song. There's a refrain which is, please come in peace, we beseech you. Only a landing will teach them. Our earth may never survive, so do come, we beg you. Please, interstellar policeman, won't you give us a sign? Give us a sign that we've reached you.
Let's do this, Jigs. Along with this episode,
Yes.
check the description. We will have a link to an Apple Music or a Spotify playlist with all these songs. Because I think they're well worth exploring.
Oh, definitely.
All right. Let's take a break and come back and discuss more in the sci-fi music pantheon.
Yeah. It's IVM here, let's go. We the IVM kids on the block over here. Just to talk, taking a break from producing all day. Coming on this podcast cause we got stuff to say. IVM Daily is the name of the show. Monday to Friday, we ready to go. Talking about stuff in our head. We might even talk about our favorite bread. Signing out, it's IVM here, the podcast network that's in your ear.
Catch IBM Daily Monday to Friday on the IBM Podcast app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to the Geek Fruit Podcast. We're discussing sci-fi in music, and we've just run through some of the strangest songs from bands that I thought I knew and loved, but apparently had hidden depths to them.
Yep.
So, Jishnu, what is the next surprise you're going to throw at me?
This is a pretty obvious one.
Mm-hmm.
Iron Man.
Of I Am Iron Man fame by Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that is a... So it was based on the comic book character of Iron Man, correct? The Black Sabbath song?
This is news to me.
What did you think it was based on?
I just thought he made up the word and had fun with it.
Really? I'm pretty sure it's about
Ozzy's
the
a
dude
comic
Iron
fan?
Man.
Because remember, Iron Man is a deep cut. When the song was written, Iron Man was like, if you knew about Iron Man, you had to really be a comic nerd.
Really?
I mean, yeah, like Iron Man only became a household name in 2008. The song was written in like, I don't know what year.
Oh no,
Like,
Iron Man
decades
was
before that.
he was a second-run character,
Yes.
true, compared to your Captain America and Spider-Man.
I've just never imagined Ozzy Osbourne lounging around reading Marvel comics.
I actually knew the song more than I knew the character at first.
Absolutely,
because I got into...
exactly.
Yeah, and
That's what I mean. Like, I would be surprised.
I can see, Black Sabbath, Master of Reality, for example, has a lot of like sci-fi, apocalyptic stuff happening in it. Were you super into Black Sabbath in
Not
general?
really. I've heard just the hits, really, for the most part.
Like your Paranoids and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Iron Man was a surprisingly big hit. And
It was, yeah.
Yeah. And it's a weird song when you think about it. Do you have like any snippets from the lyrics or anything? Because I don't remember the narrative of the song.
Oh, okay. It's very literal.
Right.
And
He is Iron Man. Is he something or is he blind?
Yeah. Has he lost his mind? Can he see or is he blind? Can he walk at all? Or if he moves, will he fall? Is he alive or dead? This sounds like a nursery rhyme.
Okay. I see why Ozzy's voice was buried under a wall of guitars. Because
Yeah.
his lyrics is dumb.
Yeah. Is he alive or dead? Has he thoughts within his head? We'll just pass him there. Why should we even care?
What?
He was turned to steel in the great magnetic field when he traveled time for the future of mankind.
My God.
This is incredibly literal.
This is... So wait.
What?
This is clearly not about the... Maybe Ozzy saw the comic book on a
Yeah.
stand and went like, oh, Iron Man.
Oh, that's cool.
I have some questions about that.
Yeah.
Like, if he walks, will he fall?
Like, okay, this makes me skeptical if we read the books. Now the time is here for Iron Man to spread fear. Vengeance from the grave kills the people he once saved.
What?
Exactly. So I don't think this is based on Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Unless we're talking like Tony meets Doctor Strange and then in some parallel dimension some
So
weird stuff.
clearly Ozzy just saw the words Iron Man somewhere and went
Yeah.
like, is he blind?
Or he's like clairvoyant and is describing like phase 6. Where like some nonsense
Maybe he
goes
can
down.
see it.
Yeah. Heavy boots of lead fill his victims full of dread. Running as fast as they can. Iron Man lives again.
You know, when you look at Ozzy Osbourne in this day and age, or when you saw him on the Osbournes,
Yeah.
you're like, this guy was one of the supposedly craziest heavy metal singers of all time. Because look at his lyrics.
He's a nut job.
Like, one of his most legendary songs, Crazy Train, I've always thought is the cheesiest song in the universe. Because it starts with this, like, badass riff and stuff. And then it goes like, crazy, but that's how it goes. It just sounds like a nursery rhyme.
Yeah.
And it used to be the theme song for the Osbournes. Right?
Oh,
They
it
had
was.
this, like,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
big band horn cover of the same song. But yeah, well, Black Sabbath, that's a weird one. But a band worth checking out, particularly for Masters of Reality, which I think has a fair amount of sci-fi stuff in it, though I can't remember anything specific right now. But let's move on.
Okay.
What's next?
So now I'm going to throw a curveball at you. I'm going to take you to a very recent band that exists in the 2000s.
I love it.
I'm capable of these also. So if anybody knows me, my jam is Blink-182.
Of course.
Might surprise a lot of people. But
yes.
their alter ego, otherwise known as Angels and Airwaves, which is Tom DeLonge's solo project. He is, if you don't know the man, he is one hell of a nut job.
Completely.
So much so that he has started his own company, which recently, by the way, like a week ago, I saw like something in the news saying that he's like $30 million in debt.
What?
Because he's
The
created
company?
he's created this company called To The Stars, quite literal, where he's trying to do more work to get the word out there about aliens. Like he wants to put...
Who he firmly believes exist.
Completely, is 100% convinced. He's been on... There's a great Joe Rogan podcast with him on it where he like gets into all this. And you thought Joe Rogan was pretty like out there and like a little bit whack, but also kind of woke at the same time. You can see the fear in his eyes when he's talking to Tom DeLonge. He's like, I don't quite... Like, this is batshit even for me, dude.
Yeah. Didn't he like write to Obama, I think?
Oh, he's written to everybody. That's the
To
thing.
every president?
So Tom DeLonge goes from being like skater punk, wearing, shorts and skate shoes and whatnot one day and like making fart jokes on stage and running around naked in music videos, to then going to putting on a suit and tie and meeting genuinely with like government officials. If you look at this Joe Rogan episode, by the way, half the things that Joe asks him about, like, okay, so how do you know? Like, you say you know about Area 51 and the fact that they have blah, 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 and one other thing, he's like, I can't tell you. It's like, why can't you tell me? Because have been in meetings with the people that have told me directly, yes, this is a thing, and we are doing this and this and this, but you can't tell anybody about it.
The man is crazy.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, your proof can't be that I have seen the proof, but I'm not allowed to tell you about the proof.
He's telling us that George W. Bush was an alien.
Yeah, he's telling, I mean, basically to that extent, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, if you really do a deep dive into his history, which as a mega fan of Blink I've done, you see that this basically just all started from the day he discovered the delay pedal.
Really?
He discovered the delay pedal, and on the Blink-182 self-titled album, things got a little crazy. It's a brilliant album. I love that album. But the guitar work on that started getting a bit more echoey, more spaced out. He added some chorus and phaser effects. And then he split from Blink. And he makes Angels and Airwaves, which their USP and their entire branding exists upon stars.
Right.
Just like planets, and he's made a bunch of basically extended music videos that are like an hour long, set to his music, which are animations about this guy called Poet, I think is his name, the character's name.
Okay.
And he just like, goes around bouncing between planets and doing fun adventures. It's not half bad,
Right.
but it's kind of random AF, because this is a musician who's just got way too much money that he doesn't know what to do with it, and has just like started this company and has run away with himself. So the song I want to mention is from their very first album, which is a great album.
Angels and Airwaves first album.
Yeah, the first Angels and Airwaves album.
Interesting. I don't know a lot about them, but yes, tell us.
They're a fascinating band to look into. So their first album, called We Don't Need to Whisper, has a song called Start the Machine, which again is quite a literal just take on talking about getting woke about these things.
About aliens existing?
About aliens existing and like space, and like let's be proactive about it. Like he's being overly proactive about humans needing to leave Earth and like, get more perspective on life out there and stuff.
Right.
It's like his heart's in the right place. He's just like a whack job that is doing it, I think, going about a little bit in the wrong way.
So, what is his end game here? He wants to awaken people to the fact that aliens exist and that humans need to leave the planet?
A bit of both.
What's the agenda?
I think the agenda is that he's trying to bridge the gap, the information gap that exists.
Right.
About what is of what we are doing and what we can do, because if we don't know we're capable of it, then why would we invest in it? You know what I mean? Like, he's sort of thinking about, he's taking those videos that people have been posting for years, like the equivalent of your Bigfoot photos. People have been posting like lights in the sky videos.
Yeah.
Right? So he is genuinely trying to fund humongous projects in which we will be able to use our spacecrafts with the same potential aerodynamic engines that these UFOs use. Like for example, one of the big things is, whenever you see these videos of lights in the sky, they move in these erratic fashions. And like, how the hell? Like, that's no plane.
Planes can't move
do
like
that.
Correct.
And so people have talked about like, is it maglev? Is it thrusters on either side? But what is it? The shape of the object is also weird. So he's talking about, well, we've obviously been aware of these movements for decades now, so it's not that we haven't done anything about it. The government has been doing things for decades. We just don't know what they're doing. And what I want to do is get that information out there and play an intermediary. He doesn't want to be a whistleblower on the government about this. He wants to basically be...
An educator.
Yeah, literally an educator. Like, he wants to be Neil deGrasse Tyson, but for like... for specifically this stuff.
Right.
You know, and to a fault. Like, Neil at least has... He's got a level head on his shoulders, which is why it's, you know, he is as cool as he is. Tom is a little... he's like coked out. Even though he's not. He basically functions like a coked out dude. It's like, calm your tits, man. Like, this is... You write good songs. Do what you do.
And you think all of this came from using delay pedals?
Honestly. Because if you look
they
at...
affected his brainwaves.
If you look at any of the behind the scenes and making of documentaries of the Ava stuff, it's all just him. It's unlike Blink as a band, Angels and Airwaves is literally him. And he writes everything on Pro Tools. He discovered, you know, rack effects and stuff.
Right.
And he bought the Edge's entire setup, pretty much. And, like, he constantly, like, when he's talking to producers and stuff, he's basically just quoting Pink Floyd and U2. Consistently.
Of course.
And you can hear it in his guitar work, how it's changed over time. And then he just gets cats, like, people that have played with Nine Inch Nails. He gets old, like, he has one buddy from high school that he's playing with consistently. And then he just gets, like, veterans from the scene to play on different albums.
Right.
And... the sound is just this humongous cosmic thing, but with that Blink-182 voice on top of it.
About par for the course. For a musician, I'd say. Another musician who is pretty much an alien conspiracy theorist, though I don't think any of his songs reflect that, is Robbie Williams, who also got super into aliens in the middle.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell me.
Didn't he
I love
have,
Robbie Williams. I don't know about this.
He's the best.
Yeah.
Like, he's got some of the most amazing songs in history.
Yeah.
But you remember how he lost his way and then, like, he said he might have BPD and then maybe he didn't. And
what's
basically,
BPD?
Bipolar disorder.
Oh, right, okay.
Right? But, like, basically, he had a bunch of, like, mental issues. And then he came back and did a bunch of interviews where he talked about aliens.
When are we talking? What album or what year?
This was, I think, after all the albums. What is his most recent album?
Oh, damn. Take the Crown?
Maybe.
No. Heavy Entertainment Show.
Which was what? Mid-2000s?
No. He's been very... Oh, okay. So you're talking about a while ago then?
Yeah, this was a while ago for sure.
Since the mid-2000s, he's had at least 4 or 5 albums.
Really?
Yeah.
I am like super out of the loop on those. Okay, I am not.
Are you talking like around the time of like Escapology and stuff like that?
Yes.
Okay,
which was what? That was mid-2000s,
That's
right?
like mid-90s or late 90s.
Really?
I think maybe early 2000s, but I think it's around then.
Okay, well, let's see. As recently as 2016, he gave an interview to NME, so basically after Root Box, which was 2008 apparently,
yes.
He headed into the Nevada desert with journalist John Ronson to search for signs of extraterrestrial life.
What?
Yeah, he was that into it.
Holy shit.
And then there was a Radio 4 documentary called Robbie Williams and John Ronson, Journey to the Other Side, which is, it's mostly a biography of him, but pretty much talks about everything he's doing in terms of searching for UFOs. And in the 2016 interview, he said, and I quote, "All is quiet on the UFO front and it has been a long time. There have been no major sightings or anything that's gone on for quite a while. But in 2018, which is this year, he came back and Instagrammed stuff saying, Hunt for the Skinwalker, which is a new documentary that he's releasing.
The Skinwalker?
Yeah, and apparently this is a new documentary that he's worked on that talks about something about the Area 51 of the paranormal. This is like the weirdest wormhole ever.
Hang on. Area 51 of paranormal?
Yes.
So not aliens?
So not literally Area 51.
So yeah, we're not talking about aliens. We're talking about dead people.
He was into aliens. He was into UFOs.
Huh.
He's given up on them, and now he's gone on to ghosts, I think.
And he's trying to bridge the gaps by using Area 51, but for ghosts.
Yeah. What is going on?
So ghost research.
I suppose
basically.
So. Yeah.
Wow, what would that be like?
I have no idea. I don't know how we've gotten into conspiracy theories. We were talking about sci-fi storytellers in music. So let's move away from the sad tale of Robbie Williams losing his mind to whatever song you have next.
Oh, Jesus. I want to take a break.
All right, we'll take a break. Yeah. We've got some information that we have to deal with.
Yes.
We'll see you after this.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are about to listen to attempt number 15 to record the promo for the podcast Varta Lab.
Varta Lab.
Varta Lab.
Varta Lab. Varta Lab. All day, all night, Varta Lab. Oh, yeah.
It's a really nice podcast, guys. It's with me and Naveen, and it has really nice stories.
Yeah, people come tell their stories, ups and downs, fun times. We all cry at the end. It's like a Karan Joy movie, but in 1 hour or less.
Yay.
Yeah, every Monday. Yeah.
It's got humans.
Welcome back to the Geek Fruit Podcast. We are talking sci-fi in music, and Jishnu has an extensive list, which we are about halfway through, I suppose.
Yeah, but let's scan this list.
Let's.
I want to talk about.
We will put it into this playlist that
Sure.
we will release
Yeah.
along with the thing,
Yeah.
and maybe if we have time, we'll discuss them another day.
Sure.
But you have more stuff you want to talk about.
I want to talk about bringing the sci-fi to us as opposed to just putting it in song. So I want to talk about people that have done a great job of basically transporting their live sets and their stage productions into spaceships.
Right.
Basically doing the Lady Gaga, over-the-top
Yes.
nonsense, and Gaga is definitely one of them.
Sure.
Um,
David Bowie is perhaps like maybe the first guy to do something like that with his characters.
Yes.
Right, with the Ziggy Stardust was pretty much a space opera that
Pretty
he
much.
did a live production of.
Yes.
Yeah.
So people at the time, it's always been a stable of people that are sort of larger than life entities in terms of the reach that they have as performers. Like Pink Floyd, I think, infamously did their Wall and stuff. They had flying pigs and things like that. That's not so much science fiction, but
Yeah.
it is just sort of like, whoa.
Which is surprising. Were you also at the Dark Side of the Moon
Yes, I
concert?
was, front and
I
center,
was
man.
at. So was I.
Yeah.
We might have been in the same enclosure, Jigs.
Yeah, we were.
Who would have thought that?
Did you see
that,
the giant shine on sign?
Of course.
Yeah, that was me.
Wait, no. The giant shine on sign.
There was a sign which had
You mean in the audience? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, we had the word shine on written in separate A4 size sheets.
Yeah.
And if you saw that was us.
Impressive. I did
Okay.
not see that.
Anyway,
yeah.
yeah.
I said
But,
yes because I heard you say, did you see the giant? And I assumed you were going to say pig. And I jumped in because I did see that
yes,
pig.
the pig was also funny.
Yeah,
with
it
Hindi.
was great.
What is it? That's something in Hindi.
Yeah, I forget what. On
Yeah.
the belly, right?
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
could
yeah.
see it as it floated away.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wonder what happened to that pig.
I know.
Who would have thought, Jigs, that we saw that show a good 10, 12 years ago?
Christ.
And we didn't know each other then, and now we're best friends. Huh. Life. Funny thing. Anyway. Dark Side of the Moon, by the way, is a pretty sci-fi-ish album, so I'm surprised they don't have more... so is The Wall, actually. It's about...
It is.
Yeah, it's kind of about a
But
post-apocalyptic
it is.
situation.
Yeah, exactly. It's like...
Yeah.
It's sci-fi in that it's surreal. It's more surreal than science fiction,
Yeah,
I'd say.
true.
Yeah. But what I'm getting at is what Floyd has infamously done with the stage production of having a flying pig and building a wall and then tearing it down during the course of a show. Antics like these, when people have invested a sci-fi twist to them, have made for the most amusing events. For instance, from everybody's favorite band in the world, U2.
Ooh,
When
I've heard of them.
when they step out of a giant lemon
Yeah.
in the Pop Mart tour,
Yeah.
they basically dressed as the village people.
Yeah.
One guy is the mirror ball man, which is just a walking mirror, as a walking disco ball, more like. Tej was he was a biker,
Yeah, something
yes,
like that. Yeah,
a gay biker from the
Yeah.
village people. Adam was a construction worker.
And Adam was wasn't Adam the cowboy or was Larry the cowboy?
I think Larry was a cowboy.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and Adam was wearing overalls
Yeah.
for some reason.
These are
and a
also
hard
the
hat.
outfits in the discotheque video.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great moves, by the way.
Yeah, great moves. That the pelvic thrust that they threw in.
One of the few dance moves
Solid.
I know.
Yeah.
But no, so these guys have actually consistently kept it up. As much as we love to talk about them, they are noteworthy in the fact that from the 90s, when they decided to flip the switch on the bare minimal punk rock roots kind of thing and said, screw it, we're going to go big or go home.
Yeah.
They went so big that they built a giant one of the arches from the McDonald's arch to be the the background plot device for their shows. And now they've gone from jumping out of a lemon to a floating lemon that literally floats above the crowd, to genuine spaceships with the 360 tour, which is the one show that I was at.
Yeah.
In having a suit that shoots lasers, 100 lasers out of it in all directions.
That's nuts.
Yeah, you've seen this, right? It's
Yeah,
on the DVD.
yeah.
Yeah. So he's walking around. Bono was walking around with a battery pack strapped to his back, and he just presses a button, and on cue, 100 lasers go flying, and it has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
Other than this part of the set is now the space part of the set.
Yeah, and they don't even overtly call it that, which is different actually from what they used to do back in the Zoo TV days, where there was an elaborate narrative, and at this point it's just visual spectacle.
Yeah.
Both of which are great.
Yeah.
But you're right, they were game changers right from Zoo TV. So to give listeners who aren't as into U2 as us some context, from their album in 1990 called Achtung Baby, from then onwards, U2 started doing a bunch of literally insane stuff on stage. And Bono in particular had a lot of characters. So one of them, for example, was a dude called The Fly, whose entire agenda was to make people watch more TV. He represented the mass media. And this was back in 1990 when the mass media barely existed. The internet didn't exist. So if you've ever seen Bono in like a leather outfit and wraparound sunglasses, that's The Fly. And they carried that on with their next couple of albums, Europa and Pop. So one of his like outright sci-fi characters, I would say, very similar to Ziggy Stardust, was Mr. Mephisto, who is like he's got little devil horns and white face kind of makeup, and he is supposed to be literally the last rock star on Earth. So he's got like this
arrogant thespian kind of thing going to him.
Yes. Yeah. So he would walk out on stage and do these like big monologues and stuff. And,
in a weird voice.
In a weird, like in a dainty British voice,
yes.
I want to say.
Yeah.
Just the weirdest stuff. You can't imagine U2 doing something like that in like when they had just done stuff like Where the Streets Have No Name, all this like sincere heart on my sleeve kind of anthemic stuff, and now they're being like super ironic and like very distanced and stuff.
And the fun thing is that he's now back. Mephisto's now back. They brought the character back for this tour, but then they're trying to keep a foot in both sides of the fence, shall we say, sort of in terms of how you deal with this sci-fi fantasy kind of a thing in your show. One is that you have the surrealism of Mephisto. He's back, and so he's still doing monologues with this makeup and voice and all that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, to keep one foot in the relevant and reality in the present, they're doing genuine live streams with the space station.
Yeah.
Just because they can. On like as an intro to Beautiful Day, which has nothing to do with any of this.
Yeah.
He's just like, hey, this is an optimistic song. What do we want to do to intro it? Well, normally I could deliver my monologue as I do, and I have done for thousands of shows. But how about we instead just Skype with Commander Scott Kelly?
Yeah.
And he's like, hey guys, it's me, I'm in space. And they're like, yeah, isn't the human race amazing? We're doing amazing things in space and stuff. Like, yeah, cool, now let's sing our song.
Amazing.
Like, wow. Like,
is this what we have to
as an amazing non sequitur, like, here's the dude in space, guys.
Is this what we have to do to talk to you two, Jishnu? Go to space?
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I think we'll have to start.
Yeah.
Well, that's two birds in one stone, really. I would say that this is continuing something that they started again. It was on the Zoo TV tour, if I remember correctly, or the one right after. But they would have a live duet with Lou Reed.
Right, yeah.
Where they would perform Satellite of Love, which again, we should probably add to this list because it's a pretty great sci-fi song. It's about a satellite taking off as well as love taking off and both of them like drifting apart. It's a great song, and it wasn't a live duet, but they had a pre-recorded video of Lou Reed singing the song.
He's pulled that move with Frank Sinatra and Pavarotti and stuff.
Correct, yeah. But again, just a great performance of that song. Who else you got who has elaborate stage productions?
I have to say ELO again, because genuinely...
is that stage?
Their set piece is a spaceship.
Right.
Like the Flaming Lips, same thing. Have you seen the Flaming Lips live productions? Genuinely a spaceship that is floating over the stage. ELO does that, times 10 maybe. But somebody, so I want to mention one random one that kind of failed.
Right.
That tried from the mid-90s. Savage Garden.
What? Savage Garden did spacey stuff? Okay.
They had a song, they had a hit called To the Moon and Back.
Correct, of course.
So they hit the nail on the head with that one.
Yeah.
It's a great song. But then if you've seen, have you seen the live music video for, what's the song called? It's on their second album, Affirmation.
No, I don't think so.
It's a self-titled album.
Right.
The music video for that song, I think it's in like some random East Asian country, because I think that's the only place that they were big at the time.
Right.
Like they started really strong and then they very quickly fell off the grid.
Right.
So I think they went and just like filmed a performance of theirs in some East Asian country. And it's a good song. I enjoy that song a lot. But they have like these random sci-fi, like just odd non sequitur spacey things to them. I don't know what they were trying.
Right.
Just like in the background elements of just like, it clearly looks like it resembles something out of a science fiction novel. Nothing, they didn't like commit to anything deliberate.
Right.
They were just like loosely in their branding was a spaceship.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
Savage Garden of all people.
Exactly. So like, if you're going to try this game, you better go all the way.
Yeah,
otherwise, you look like an idiot. And unfortunately...
And they look like idiots?
Yeah.
It's a shame.
Yeah.
But, okay, we spent quite some time discussing this, Jigs, so I'm going to draw this episode to a close. But let me tell you this.
Tell it.
I genuinely think we need another installment in this new series that we've just invented, because I think we haven't covered some of the stuff that is sci-fi related in music that has genuinely affected my childhood upbringing. Like, I didn't get a shot to do my piece. Like, I want to talk about Radiohead, the Flaming Lips, both of whom have literal sci-fi concept albums. The Flaming Lips in particular, like the Soft Bulletin and Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots, are just sci-fi stories. Janelle Monáe is another one.
If we get into fantasy, then you have Led Zeppelin all over the place.
And we should add fantasy as well. All right, let's consider this installment 1 of the series then, Jigs. And we will be back to talk about this.
Send in your application, I'll consider it.
I shall send in an application, duly marked to your email address.
Regards.
Yes, but tell us about some of your favorite sci-fi in music, whether it's in the music itself, whether it's in the concept of the album, or whether the person performing it is kind of a nut job and super into alien conspiracy theories. Write into us at GeekFruitHQ on all the social media, and write into us on contactgeekfruit@gmail.com, and also tell us what we should talk about next time. I have some thoughts. But you can also send in... Share yours, yeah. You can also send in your application to Jishnu, I suppose, though I'm his best friend, so I'm obviously going to win. See ya, you nerds.
Give me a word. या कोई भी लाइन. कुछ भी हो सकता है यार. क्या कहा आपने? टोपी. Okay. Mohan Joshi hated wearing topis. He felt suffocated in them. टोपी पहनते ही उसे स्कूल की याद आती थी. Where of course he had no choice but to wear a टोपी. But जिस दिन पास आउट हुआ, उसी दिन उसने अपनी टोपी का bonfire बना दिया. And since then, he'd never worn a cap or a hat. ना कड़कती धूप में, and not even to bacho from the thandi. But from Monday 26th February, Mohan Joshi had to wear a topi all the time. Why? Because if he didn't, everyone around him knew exactly what kya soch raha tha. They knew that he was wondering how the girl in the yellow churidar would look bina kapde ke. They knew when he was calling the boss a sadela tomato. They knew everything. पर ये सब हुआ कैसे? अरे भाई, यही तो स्टोरी है. और ये स्टोरी आप ही ने मुझे दिया by giving me the starting word. यही तो है The Croc's Tales. Words आपके, कहानी आपके लिए. Catch the stories on Monday and Thursday on the IVM website, app, and anywhere you get your podcast from. See you soon.
Do you have a night routine? Well, everyone has one. And the to-do list usually looks like this. Brush your teeth, set that alarm, get into your pajamas, and switch off those screens. But here's one more to add to that list. Tune into the Positively Unlimited podcast for a dose of positive action and tips on how to build powerful mindsets. Episodes out every Monday on the IVM Podcast app, ivmpodcast.com, or wherever you tune into podcasts.